Welcome to the LEC post-game lobby. I'm Laura, joined by Perkz and Vitius, and I'm super hyped to be hosting this first PGL, especially because I just had a Zyra that I was hoping for years. It wasn't Mickey, it had to be Targamas. Perkz, thank you so much for joining us.
I was thinking about it actually.
Right?
Like I was just thinking about this. How I'm gonna mention this in PGL, but you mentioned it before, so.
Well, first takes on the pick maybe, because we haven't seen this champion in years, and I know Targamas has been training the champions who played with a tank build. What did you think of this choice here?
I know Zyra is traditionally used as a counter to Thresh, but I mean, they also got level 2 ganked. So this is kind of the problem with those kind of champs. Like if you fall behind, you're gonna be weak the whole game, basically. So yeah, I think it's kind of unlucky, but it is sort of to be expected. It's like when you pick action into Diana Yasuo, you know, you kind of expect it to just int. So I think, yeah, it's just one of those picks, you know, where it might work out, but it's higher chance it doesn't.
Yeah, they had a good game plan going into this game, Vitius.
Yeah, I think that when I look at, well, when we talk about Vitality's drafts overall, one of the things that we were talking about was the complexity. In week 1, we felt like that you played a lot of hard-to-execute compositions with things like the Akshan mid. This week, it felt a little more straightforward. You went for a little bit more in the scaling department. You had a little bit more of a reliable engage. Was this an active choice for you, Luca, where you decided to keep things a little simpler coming into week 2?
Yeah, it was definitely keep it simple scale. That was kind of like our choice as well, because yeah, I feel like we should be good enough, you know, to beat anyone in this way. So I mean, obviously the first week was like, I think, a bunch of crazy picks and a bunch of bad drafts, and also like obviously us being sick, everything kind of didn't go well for us. So yeah, that's it.
You're playing together again. I guess it must change a lot of things. Talking about this game, actually, it was very dominant from Vitality from the beginning to the end. And I asked you during the interview yesterday if you would be hyped to play against Caps and Jankos. Was it special for you during that game?
I mean, during the game, it wasn't anything like, how would I say, I don't really focus on it. Maybe like when I went to Fountain Dive them. That was kind of personal, I guess. That was like for the good time's sake, you know, when we used to tower dive, fountain dive everybody else. But besides that, I was just playing, like, you know, I try to turn off my emotions. I was definitely like nervous before the game, obviously facing the team that I qualified to LEC with, you know. I had a lot of memories and history with them. So I would definitely say it was a bit more, I was a bit more invested in this game than other games, and I was definitely more hyped for this game than other games. So yeah, but that's it.
Luca, we noticed that in that game, you were CSing like a monster.
Chovy cosplay, honestly.
I tracked at 17 minutes 30, you're at 220 CS. On top of that, every time Jankos tried to flash kick you, you flashed it every single time. So I felt like that you were so hyper-focused on both your lane and like what the enemy jungler was doing. Like this, for me, was like a hyper-level focus game from you.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like, I don't think I can, I don't think I want to die to Jankos once this entire year, basically. Like, so I was really trying not to into ganks and just like respect more jungle, like roams in general. But yeah, so I was looking out for him in my head, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm happy with today's play. Yeah.
Honestly, you can be. It showed. I mean, you also got the Kia player of the game with 69% of the votes, Luca. I know that a lot of people were looking forward to your return in Europe, but also were wondering about in what form will you return to Europe after spending a year playing in the LCS in a different environment. What's your take on your return? I know you've been sick. I know this hasn't been the best situation for you guys to come back, but after 2 weeks in the LEC, how do you feel in terms of level regarding the expectations you had maybe?
I mean, the start definitely wasn't ideal, but you know, I'm like I already played for so long that I'm used to starting strong. I'm used to starting weak. Like nothing is really new for me. besides 0G Super Week, every time, every year there's something new. That was definitely a new thing. But as I mentioned, like it was more like really unlucky circumstances and bad play by me, and I acknowledge it. So I don't want that to like affect my play for the rest of the split. I mean, sure, maybe I ruined my stats, for the LEC stat check, or I griefed a bit, with action. But for me, it was more about like the confidence in my teammates as well, knowing that everyone on this team is really, really good. And that, having said that, like I know all of us underperformed last week, so I think it's just basically being confident in our skill level and the players that I wanted to play with, and I know how good they are. So I don't think there should be a problem for us to keep improving and keep doing better. And obviously, like big praise to everybody as well, because everyone is trying really hard in scrims, and I can see it, and we can see it. We can see our improvements on day by day. Basically, when we give a task or a goal, we do improve on it. So I think I'm looking forward to see what can we achieve with this team, right? Basically, that's kind of my goal.
You kind of already answered my question already, but you mentioned this as well yesterday with regards to the environment that you're in with this team, because one of the big preconceptions about this super team was that there would be a lot of strong personalities, right? That there would be clashes, that you'd have a lot of different ideas and ideologies, that you wouldn't be able to come to an agreement. But the way you describe this Vitality roster is that like everyone seems to be super enthusiastic to get better. Everyone seems to be trying to work towards getting on the same page. Can you talk a little bit more about what it's like for you in your environment with this Vitality team? Because it seems to go very against what people expected to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, basically, for me to be a really good player, or for me to consider myself to be the best player, in my role or in the world, like I need to have everybody on the same page with me. I am not a player who can play under circumstances where everyone has different idea. That's not how I play. That's not how I perform. It's not how I envision the game. And I feel like here in Vitality, all the players really respect my opinion and respect what I want to bring to the team, which is something that, I just need to perform. I mean, I just need to, I need everyone to play my way of the game. How do I say, like, what I think is the correct way of the game? You know what I mean? This might sound like egoistic or narcissistic, but like the way that I've played the league for a long time is, I think, the correct one. And you just have to be, like, everyone does some things a bit different, but in my head, like, I want to play like Diamond, like EDG. I want to play like these teams, and I want us to have the fundamentals that these teams have. So that is basically what is the most important for like my team to succeed, like everyone knowing what to do, like what you guys mentioned, being on the same page. Funny enough, I actually was making a presentation about being on the same page, and here we are this week being on the very same page. So I think it's good.
No, that's really awesome to hear, actually. Like, leader Luca seems to be coming in clutch.
And it's always been like this way. I mean, for me, it's acknowledged now.
I mean, obviously, I need like the very good players in my team, as well. Like, today my top is all enemy top, and my bottle to kill bots, so that also helps.
True. That does also help.
Honestly, it showed. It showed, especially this week now that you're all together. And right now in the standings, Vitality are starting to climb with a 2-0 week. And if we can talk about the rest of the standings in the LEC, maybe we see that Rogue and Fnatic are still undefeated, Luca. We were talking highly about Fnatic, but did Rogue came in as a surprise for you?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think Rogue came in as a surprise. I mean, yeah and no in a way, because I mean, you expect them to not play really well with a new jungler, right? Which is the most pivotal role. But it's also like that's come from Damon, so if he can, communicate or share some of his ideas, he can also Rogue was like, on top of that, Rogue was kind of like baby Damon like last year. Yeah. So I do think like he actually fits kind of well in that sense, in that team. I mean, they still have like good laners. They still play like the same way as last year. I do think they're not as strong as they were last year. I'm gonna prove that when we face them. I don't know when, but when we do. And yeah, definitely it's gonna be fun to play them. I hope they're undefeated until then.
improvement, side grade, VIT, for Rogue? We noticed that they play differently, a faster pace in the
well,
LEC
I
now,
think
but...
that I think that there's like semblance of the same and also semblance of the new, as Perkz was talking about. I've been impressed with how well they've worked together in particular. Like something that we've talked a lot with Perkz about today is that concept of synergy, right? And especially when you bring in an import, sometimes it can be difficult. Perkz, when he originally joined the league, had Trick as his jungler, who ended up being the back-to-back MVP. And sometimes all you need is that synergy initially to be able to find success. So it seems that they've been able to successfully find that. And if you can find that rhythm, then you can kind of ride it for quite a while. And the question is, can they keep evolving while the other teams around them get better? Because especially many veteran teams, like Vitality is a really good example of one where losing isn't something that they really care about. Losing is actually a great way for them to improve, and then they get better very quickly because it's much more obvious what their problems are. Whereas for Rogue, when you sit there undefeated for a long time, sometimes your problems or issues aren't always as obvious. So this is something that Rogue has had trouble with in the past, especially when you lead into playoffs. So we'll see if they can continue to grow like many of the teams around.
Yeah, maybe a new team maybe got rid of those issues they had last year. Perkz, back to you now. Because you rejoined the league recently, and I want to ask about your take on the competition. We know it's just fresh. We know we just had 2 weeks, but your take on the evolution of the LEC and the players since you left. Would you say that the competition got stronger, or don't you maybe feel too many changes for now?
I think actually the competition is weaker than when it was in 2020. Like when I was there last time, right? I think back then the competition was actually quite strong. I think the top 4 back then is stronger than the top 4 now, or I guess you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And I think in general the teams are. It's a spring split, so usually in spring split teams are not really teams yet. They just started playing together. And also we had a big shuffle everywhere, basically, which is not the case, the truth in all over the world, right? So I think it's expected for us to be a bit weaker right now. I do not think LEC is strong at all right now, and I think most of the teams, like including us, obviously, I'm not excluding us here. I think everyone is pretty weak right now. But there is a lot of like talent, individual talent that is popping up, and that is still, it's not like super easy to play against, but as a level of a team, as a level of teams, I think the teams are not very good now.
Very honest.
Yeah.
As expected from Perkz.
Sorry, guys.
No, I think it's super fair because honestly, I really do agree with you. I think that even in summer of last year, the LEC going into Worlds didn't feel super strong either. And I think we saw some of that at Worlds, considering you did knock one of our teams out, Perkz.
Yeah.
I did say I'm going to have better win rate than EU last year, and I did. It was 2-1, but or 3-2. It was 3-2, but still, it was positive win rate.
That is true. The question is, though, Perkz, do you think that Europe has the potential to be good come these international events? Because as you rightly said, we do have a lot of talent, but how do you see the ceiling of European teams?
Of course, yeah. Of course it's possible.
Yeah.
I think it's also like a lot of talent in national leagues as well, right? Yeah. And they come to LEC as well. And I think that even like these teams that we have right now, it's definitely possible for players to get better and to, compete in the world level. Like we've seen it time and time before with rookie teams or rookie players. And it would be stupid to say it's not possible. I mean, we're definitely at like a deficit, but usually the West is, right? So I think it just depends on the basically motivation and discipline.
Yep.
Mostly discipline in scrims, I would say, as well. Which like this, trust me, guys, scrim games compared to like the stage games, they are completely different world. Like, I don't think I've ever had like 250 CS in 17 minutes, or 18, whatever, in scrims. So it's like I have no time to farm. Everybody's just fighting.
Yeah, you were mentioning the talents rising from the IRLs. We have many rookies coming from the IRLs, and so some last year. I mean, and when we look at the Kia Player of the Game leaderboard, and we see who's leading, we have VTO right now, top of the standings. VTO made many improvements, I want to say, since his rookie year.
Well, he joined last year, right?
Yeah.
And so, Perkz, you've never actually played him yet, right?
No. I don't think so.
No, I've only faced him in scrims.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah,
okay, so what are your initial impressions of VTO?
I don't recall too much because it was like a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I think he's played well on stage, at least like the first 3 games. I know he's also rank 1, so he must be not bad, right? I mean, we will see when I play against him in official game, right? So, yeah.
And this leads me to another question I had about the competition in mid lane in particular, because we had VTO, we have Nuclear Int also. He's not doing so well in BDS, but still one of the new players. Do you see talents that could maybe surpass the legacy you set up and that Caps set up maybe a few years back? And do you see some rough talent maybe in the LEC in the upcoming years when you see the mid lane pool that we have right now?
I mean, it's like always hard to say.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like you never know the trajectory of like players' improvement. Like for example, when I played against like Caps in season 4 in solo queue, that he was like the worst player I've ever seen, and then he ended up being the Europe's best player. You know, like he did so many good things. So it's like same with honestly with Humanoid. Like I didn't think highly of Humanoid at all, and now I think he's pretty good, right? So. People can improve. People can definitely improve, you know. It's all about how hard you really want it. And it can be the same for VTO, you know, like last year. Wasn't very good, but I think now he can be pretty good, right? So it's like hard to say who will overcome who, you know. Yeah.
It's a matter of discipline, environment, and a lot of other things that make players good, but we'll see about that maybe later. I think we have some new talents rising in the LEC, but focusing on the schedule we're going to have next week, we're going to have a really good battle between the 2 undefeated teams, Rogue, Fnatic. I think that's a hype matchup.
It certainly will be. Vitality is going to be facing off against SK next week. I imagine that this game expectation should now be more towards in favor of Vitality, but I also do wonder, Perkz, do you still have some of the G2 in you where you would play better against the better teams and sometimes worse against the worst teams?
I mean, maybe, but at this point, you know, we just have to take win by win.
Yeah.
We can't especially because of week 1, like we can't like flip things, you know. So I think we will be just fine against SK next week. I don't know who we play day 2. So, but yeah, if you play against Rogue, like that might be very fun to play. I don't know when we face them actually.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I guess I hope you guys finally found your footing in the LEC now that you guys are back together. I think we have to wrap up PGL. Someone telling me in my ear. Perkz, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure. Before you go, because I know that Quick Shots didn't do justice to Shox. He forgot about the PGL selfies. And that's something I want to do before we sign off. But that's all of us from us here tonight. But we have the LCS coming with 100 Thieves versus Dignitas. And the LCS is coming up next. We will be back next week for week 3 of the LEC Spring. Thank you all very much. And we'll see you then.
Right, smile,
okay, let's
Luca.
do this.